The Adam Gravitz Sports Show.
What's happening, party people? Welcome to the Adam Gravitz Sports Show. This is Jack, and today we are going to talk about the 2024 presidential election. Election day is only a few days away, and we thought it was really important that we got down to the issues in a way that encouraged voters to have the latest, best information as we see it, and think about the issues in a way that was productive and hopefully will guide you towards the right choice. If you're one of those viewers and listeners who appreciate my perfect NFL picks, if you skip ahead to the end, you will get my Week 9 NFL picks. I did get 13 games right last week, continuing my hot streak, so I encourage you to listen to the rest of the show. But if you do want to skip to the very end, you'll get all the great picks. But I want to talk about the election. But first, if you haven't subscribed to the show, please click subscribe, leave a comment. If you're one of those people who leave nasty, hate-filled comments, those will be there, and I'll respond to them and do my best to see what your concerns are. Ones that are completely out of line will be deleted. I want to go over some points and political items that I feel like people give positive points to Trump and negative points to Harris. And I just wanted to talk about those points. And if you have individual comments on each section, feel free to timestamp your hate or questions or comments. I think the first thing that people jump to when they look at a Republican versus a Democrat, and that's like by default, is they look at the economy. And people just assume by default that Republicans are better at the economy. However, when you look at this particular instance, and with these particular people, I find that is far too simplistic and incorrect. If we look at things like inflation, there is inflation all over the world. And the United States, under the guidance of President Biden, we made it through the post-COVID recovery better than any country in the world. And inflation is back to standard levels where it was under President Trump. When former President Trump was in office, the stock market was much lower than it is now. Unemployment was much higher, and we had supply issues everywhere. People note gas prices were lower. That's because we're in the middle of a pandemic and no one was going anywhere. If you consider that, he shouldn't be held accountable for a pandemic. Yes, but he was the president, and part of the responsibility is maintaining a strong and safe country where we have control of natural disasters, recovery, and helping other people out, and also just being aware and alert and proactive against all threats, including pandemics. And he failed miserably by underplaying it and not encouraging folks to get vaccinated and making everything take longer and much, much worse. If you look at Vice President Harris's plans for the future of the economy, her approach of embracing the middle class and the working class, helping new home buyers with down payment assistance, leveling the playing field for folks who don't have wealthy parents who just gift them houses when they need it, things like that just helps the little guy instead of helping billionaires. Take that for what it's worth. I give the points to Harris. Something that we also hear a lot, again, it's kind of like the easy button, is immigration, right? The closed borders versus the open borders, if you want to call it that. And that's just simply not true. Just because one person is just mean and nasty about it and really just acts like a scumbag, that doesn't make them better at immigration. It just makes them a jerk. And I think being tough and like saying nasty things, that just makes people mad at each other. That just makes people, do bad things like normal people, not like government officials. Trump's plans of mass deportation is, one, unachievable, but two, it seems like the primary goal is to create hate and confusion, much like his Muslim ban from when he was first president, where he just said Muslims aren't allowed in this country. Seems unusual, and it was a bad choice. It created a lot of confusion. All it really did is tie up airports and make people so they couldn't go home or come back home. So I don't see how that is positive. There's also his nonsense with, back building the wall and having Mexico pay for it, which never happened. And all that to say is that, our country needs immigrants for a labor force. As someone who works in the construction industry, we have a labor shortage as it is. And the immigrant labor force is critical towards building new home construction, multifamily construction, highway construction, everything that gets people where they need to go, gets people to homes, gives them homes, places to shop, to work, to worship. We need immigrants for all those things. And so the concept of just rounding up millions of people, one, is unachievable, and two, is just purely rooted in fear and hatred. Alternatively, Vice President Harris was contributed to and was in support of the bipartisan immigration bill, which would have streamlined and cleaned up the immigration process so legal immigration could happen more effectively and would encourage proper documentation, which is what this country is based on, is immigrants coming here and running through the kind of the old school Ellis Island system, right? And so when you make the system so broken that the only way people can come inside is illegally, and then you penalize them for working and doing, building the country and for working at Mar-a-Lago, it makes it hard to be America. So again, in that way, I give Vice President Harris points for immigration policy over former President Trump. And then we have folks who think that Trump is good for Israel, right? He's good for Israel, and by extension, better with Jewish people. And Trump likes to play that up. He says that he's the best at Israel, and he moved the embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv, and he thinks that's good enough. But his support of Israel stems from his evangelical Christian supporters awaiting a messianic return to Israel and the Jewish people being there to witness the return of Jesus, and then immediately converting and being swept away to heaven. That's where the support of Israel comes from. It's not from a love of the Jewish people. It's not from a love of the land of Israel. Has nothing. He didn't go to birthright. He doesn't know what it's like. So that's part of it. He also is friends with Netanyahu, who generally sucks, and is they're working together to keep the hostages from being released from the October 7th attack. There would have been a possibility for releasing the hostages throughout the last year, and Trump and Netanyahu have worked together to keep that from happening, so they can continue to exact revenge on non-white people. If Trump had his way, Gaza would be a resort, a Trump resort, beach villa, and has nothing to do with his love of Israel or his support of the Jewish people. Looking at Vice President Harris, she believes in Israel's right to defend itself. And like a compassionate person, she also would encourage them to avoid the loss, civilian casualties. And I believe if she were president, the hostages would be returned more likely than they are now, with Trump interfering. That moves me towards Gaza as a flag, I guess, people put on Harris, and I know a number of folks want to use that as an opportunity to do a protest vote for Jill Stein, which is nonsense. Again, any effort to not elect Harris will result in Trump potentially being president. And as I had said, he is not a friend of the Arab nations. He's not a friend of Muslims, and he's not a friend of anyone except for himself. And so, and recently, a large number of Muslim and Arab leaders have come out and said that, Harris is the right choice for presidency. And there's no reason to do a protest vote. Then pivoting to, so those are my points of comparison there. I also want to look at things that people are proactively positive on Harris, and a big reason why you should vote for her, which would be the protection of reproductive rights. Donald Trump is very proud of himself for nominating and getting through the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade, which had protected a woman's right to choose throughout the nation. And now we have many, many states who are banning abortion, and that's because of him. He wants to say that, I put it back to the states where it belongs, but that's just code for I want to ban abortion. Sending things back to the states is just like sending, slavery back to the states, right? That was part of the coded language there. They will not stop until abortion is banned in every state. And getting back the protections that were had under Roe v. Wade makes our country a better place. It gives women more options and more control over their bodies. And the government should not be in the middle of someone's personal choices. I'm not pro-abortion, and I'm not anti-abortion. You do what works for you. And I don't think Trump understands that. I don't think Trump cares. I think Trump's bought plenty of abortions. He's paid for plenty of abortions. And he's just doing what works for getting elected. I think we live in a world now where Trump has stacked the Supreme Court, and he stacked judges throughout the country, and they're doing lots of things that cause trouble. And I think we'll all be in a better place with President Harris. My last point is decency, right? I think back to how anxiety filling the air was every day when Trump was president. Every day there was a new grenade policy that he would drop on Twitter that made no sense. There was always decoding this, insulting this group, insulting this person, causing this crisis, just so much chaos, the endless run of acting cabinet member, acting speaker, acting whatever. There's so many different things. He couldn't get his actual people through because they were unvetted and unqualified. Endlessly unqualified people in every cabinet position, people who only got there because they donated money. The Treasury Secretary was the guy who was financed the Lego movie. Secretary of State was an Exxon executive. These are people. These aren't. He wants to have Elon Musk doing stuff. He wants to have RFK Jr., whose brains have been literally eaten by worms, dealing with healthcare. Harris brings a level of normal and calm and comfort that we deserve as a country, that we need. The last 3.5 years have been great as far as just normalcy. I know it hasn't been perfect for everyone, and life's not perfect. And there's a certain level of disappointment, but it's perfectly fine to dislike your leaders. You don't have to love them. You're not picking someone to marry. You're not picking a best friend. You're not picking someone to have a beer with. You're picking somebody to make the tough choices, to do the right thing, and to make us proud. And if that's what you want in this country, then you need to pick Vice President Harris for president. And now I'm going to pick the NFL games. Where's my phone? All right. Okay, so here's your Week 9 NFL picks. The Thursday night game I have Houston over the Jets. Despite Stephon Diggs' injury, the Jets stink. They don't care. They don't like football anymore. Just get it over with. And it's Thursday night. Dallas Cowboys are playing Atlanta. I don't love Atlanta. I'm not gonna lie. They're not my favorite team. There's a lot of things they do wrong, but Dallas just sucks. Atlanta is my pick. Baltimore coming off a tough loss to the Browns, facing Denver. Baltimore gets back on the winning track. Baltimore wins. Dolphins have Tua back, but they still make Ravitz sad. So Buffalo wins. Sorry, Ravitz. New Orleans is playing Carolina. I have Carolina in the upset. Not a lot of people are picking them. I think this is a great opportunity to snag a win and move up in your pool standings. I mean, the Raiders, bleh. But the Bengals, again, the team everyone gives a hall pass to. But I'm going to give the Bengals the win over the Raiders. The rejuvenated Cleveland Browns with Jameis Winston at quarterback facing the Chargers. Despite that, I have the Chargers winning. I don't know why. It just feels like a thing I want to do. Red Hot Washington's playing the Giants. Like in the old days, I would say that Washington would fail and screw up and lose, but there's just something about them. They might be good. I think a lot of people feel that way, and I don't want to get in the bandwagon. I'm not like a bandwagon person. This is where Adam yells at me, like, "Of course you always pick Washington every week, right?" But that's not why. It's literally because I think they might actually be good. They have competent organization. Like, I haven't seen anything like this since I've been alive. I mean, I was alive when they won the Super Bowl, but like, I didn't know what I was watching. I didn't realize that was something at that time. Such is life. All right, the Patriots are playing Tennessee. I wouldn't recommend watching this game. I wouldn't recommend having your friends watch this game. I wouldn't recommend engaging with this game in any way, shape, or form unless you've committed to a weekly pick'em pool like I'm in, and I pick Tennessee. Despite all the flaws, it's just not real football. Chicago's playing Arizona. This could go either way. It's a 50-50 game for me. So I flipped the coin and went to Arizona. It's a good reason. I think Chicago's going to have deep pain and sadness. And after the Hail Mary loss to Washington, which is really cool, by the way. I'm sure everyone's seen it. But I think that's going to have a little bit of a hangover effect. Jacksonville's playing Philly. I think Philly wins. I don't need to go into detail there. Detroit Lions, America's team, playing Green Bay. No Jordan Love. Detroit wins. The Rams are playing Seattle. It's a tough game for me to pick, but I'm picking Seattle. I feel like they're a spunky team and they have good things going on generally, and I just get like a weird feeling with the Rams that they're just gonna continue to disappoint if I pick them, so I'm not gonna pick them. Indy benched Richardson, so they went with Joe Flacco, but I still think Minnesota beats them. Just the way it is. And then Monday night, so the Chiefs are undefeated, right? And Tampa's 4-4. It's gonna be a good game though. Like, I really want to pick Tampa, but I feel like Monday night Chiefs, something's going to happen and they're going to win. And I'm picking the over on points. So that's it. So for Adam, this is Jack. This has been the Adam Gravitz Sports Show. Please vote for Harris. Have a good night.